Hi there, it's Sharon Hess.
And Susie Juravich.
Hey, all right. So Susie and I are friends.
Yes.
And we decided that we wanted to make a video together for you guys. And because both of us kind of go with the flow, this is not pre-planned, so we have no idea what you're going to hear from us today. But I was thinking last night, when we were talking yesterday, we talked a little bit about our journey of what got us where we are, right?
That's right.
So it's interesting because I was thinking about, y'all all know I'm a Course in Miracles gal. And when I first started studying A Course in Miracles, I had this, I'll call it a revelation, epiphany or whatever. And I told nobody about it for 18 years. And part of the reason why I did tell people was because of something I read in Proof of Heaven. And Susie came in this morning, looked at my bookshelf, and mentioned this book.
It was amazing because I've seen him being interviewed, and I also read the book, and then I got an audio of him actually reading his own book, and then I just fell in love with his story over and over again. So he was one of those NDE folks that had a profound experience.
Right. Right. And when I had my epiphany, revelation, gift from God, whatever you want to call it,
right.
It was not like an NDE. It was not, right. I always heard that people like saw the light and they went towards the light and they had all this light experience. Well, when I had my experience, I actually worked at a commercial collection agency. And I was standing at the reception desk and I left. And it was almost like a darkness. And it really wasn't a darkness as much as it was just a void. Right. And so that's why I was afraid to tell people. Because I was like, I didn't go toward the light. They might say, well, where the hell did you go, right? So in this book, I'm going to read it, put my eyeballs on. It said, he's talking about his experience. And he says, later, when I was back here in the world, I found a quotation by a 17th century poet, Henry Vaughan, that came close to describing this place. I got chills when I read this because it was like, okay, that's what happened. This vast inky black core that was the home of the divine itself. There is, some say, in God, a deep but dazzling darkness. Mm-hmm. That was it, exactly. An inky darkness that was also full to brimming light. So it's kind of, I'm going to get chills when I say that. It's kind of interesting to try and explain that it's dark and light at the same time. Mm-hmm. It was more a feeling for me, and I know you've been there, right?
Yeah.
So what is it like for you?
Well, I've had many experiences in the higher realms, and one experience was I was walking through that darkness. Now, I'm not an NDE experiencer. However, I am able to go into those different angelic realms. And in one case, I was actually going into a place that was really dark and like muddy and mucky and all of that. And then I was guided.
I can hear.
Yeah, exactly. And there were other beings that were there that were saying, don't go because they'll hurt you, which was the light. But I remember just kind of walking through that experience and then going to a place where it was like a structure that was all white, and I walked into that space. There's a lot more detail there. Right. But whenever I do this kind of travel, when I'm traveling in the higher realms, I always look at the palm of my hand. And even if it's not exactly this hand, I always check in with the palm of my hand, but it doesn't have to be a representation because it just means that I have awareness of where I'm at.
Oh, so it's to remind you of you.
Right, but it may not be exactly the same hand, but my check-in when I'm in the higher realms is to go to my palm. And in that case, when I went into the depth of the light, I looked and I realized there was no more body, but there was still personality and awareness.
Have you seen the movie Inception?
Yes.
Okay, so it's kind of like the top that he had in Inception.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's like that reminder of who you are. And I was going to show y'all this. I just have all kinds of stuff on my desk.
Nice.
Yeah, see what's on my desk? My little top. All right, so Susie, we're here.
That's fun. Well, we always have these reminders, especially when we're in lucid dreaming or if we're in this travel experience in the higher realms, that we have indicators of lucid, I'm awake, and I'm mindful of an experience that is not actually here. So that's what my palm is.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. Talking about lucid dreaming, when I first started studying A Course in Miracles, one of the classes we were talking about something, and I said, oh, yeah, so it's like when you're dreaming and you don't like what's happening, so you change it.
Right.
And everybody in the class went, oh, my God, you lucid dream. And I'm like, that's just dreaming to me, right?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
Add something to that.
Absolutely.
So I had a lecture last week, and I was really opening up to some of the beautiful gifts that I've been able to tune into and explore and then develop. And one of them was about lucid dreaming. And in one of the dreams that I had, there was a person that was talking to me, and as soon as he raised his hands up and did this, I could see his hands were mangled, and it looked violent. He had a violent accident or something.
Yeah.
And so as a lucid dreamer, I made a choice at that point to ask that being to dissolve. And so when we go into lucid dreaming, we have the mindfulness, the awareness that we are present, but then we can also add into the dream state and take away. And in that case, when I said dissolve, he immediately dematerialized. And then the other people that were in the dream, they stopped as if nothing happened.
Right. So kind of reorganize. Yeah.
Reorganize.
I think thinking about it now, like, okay, so one of the first things you learn when you're learning metaphysical stuff is that this is a dream. What we're experiencing, our here now, time, space, reality, is actually a dream. We're in a dream state.
Right. This is the dream.
Yeah, exactly. This is a dream. And the whole thing is you can choose to have a happy dream or to have a nightmare. Right? Because you're the one in control of it. And you're in control of it by your mind, or via your mind, right? So I think that's what we were talking about at that point in time, was about the dream that we're in. And, it's hard. I'm laughing, but it's really hard for our logical mind. It's like, this isn't a dream. I can hug Susie. Susie can hug me, right? It's like, to me, we're here.
But it's real. Yeah. Every experience, whether we're in this timeline or if for some other folks that are able to go in and retrieve information from other timelines or concurrent running timelines or in other locations, that we're always present and it's always the now. So we could dismiss this one individual lifetime as not real meaningful, but it is from a soul perspective. All of this has extreme and profound impact. What we bring into this world and this body that we have.
Right. So since you said soul, I want to go there for a minute, right? Because that's what my work's all about. And yours as well. Because both of us do Akashic record stuff. We just do it in a little different way. Right. But so it's like we're all mind, body, soul. And my belief, and I'm pretty sure it's true, is that while we're here, what we want to accomplish is expanding our soul. It's always about expanding and growing on a soul level. But sometimes we just let our mind, the mind-body part, get in the way.
It's real messy.
Yeah.
University, this planetary experience does bring lessons for people.
Right. But we're the ones that choose it somewhere on a soul level. Okay. Sometimes that makes it a little more palatable because we think that we know why everything's happening, and we have really no clue unless we're tapped into our divine self. What I teach is that we have our subconscious mind, we have our conscious mind, we have our collective consciousness, which is the energetics of what all people are thinking. And then we have our God consciousness. And if we can connect to our God consciousness, it trumps everything else.
Right.
So if you're having issues, if you connect to that God consciousness, that's where you're going to find your solutions.
And what's interesting, what I love about it, because Sharon and I do similar work, we found each other through noticing we're both Akashic readers. We all have different terminology and different ways of being. But honestly, it's all kind of a central source of energy. And so for me, I call it the God particle. So when I'm working with different people or being an experience, even with my own experiences, is I know that God particle is what I am, that I am.
I love that term. I've never heard that term, God particle.
I just make it up.
I call it our divine self.
Right, divine self.
Yeah.
But God particle. So as I move through the energies that I work with, I continue to get new information. I'm like, okay, well, let's come and upgrade in languaging or just a different frequency that I'm drawing in now through the choice of languaging.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah.
So what else do you want to talk about?
Oh, gosh. I would love to hear about what turned you on, or how, because as an Akashic reader, we have different methods on how we create these environments to become more attuned to the frequencies and vibrations. So I'd love to know, like, when did you start feeling this intuitive nature, or this this nature, which we all have this, but some of us wake up and we're real clear, like, okay, I'm having these different experiences. Like, when was maybe your earliest time where you tuned into stuff?
Hindsight's always 20/20, right? So now that I do this and I understand this and know a lot about it, I pretty much did some of it my whole life. I just didn't realize and recognize that's what I was doing. So, you know, you're saying that we all have it.
Right.
Absolutely true. So when I was 40, I did it late in life. I was too busy having fun and ignoring all of the stuff, right? No, I worked at a commercial collection agency. What a beautiful place to become enlightened, right? But the owner was substituting. A friend of his facilitated the Course in Miracles class. The owner and I were friends, and he was substituting. So he said, would you come to the class so that I have somebody there I know? So I said, okay, sure. So I said, sure, I'll be there. You know. So then I called. I have a beautiful, wonderful brother named Ron, and I called Ron and I said, Ron, you're into all this weird shit. What's Course in Miracles?
And I think for us who tuned in, we're still like, oh my gosh, I can't believe all this weird stuff.
Yeah. Well, he lived in an ashram, and he, you know, I knew he meditated. I didn't do any of that. Okay. So he said, well, you know, he said, I'll go with you. He said, I've had the book since I was in college, and he said, I'll go with you. Well, when I started reading the book and looking at and understanding the things that's taught, the spiritual principles, I was like, okay, number one, this is what I think, but I didn't think anybody else in the world thought it, right? Because I'd only been introduced to traditional religion, which tells you what you're supposed to think. And then the second thing was I could take the real high level esoteric principles and explain them in a very practical way that people could understand.
I love that about you. I mean, even as I'm looking at creating a new business, and I enjoy your strategies, using these abilities to fine tune and clarify exactly what direction I'm going in. So it's really succinct. So.
Right. And that's part of who I am on a soul level. I'm about creating here in the physical world.
That's good.
Right? We all have something on a soul level that's kind of like our soul foundation. Okay? Because when God, for me, if I say the God word, I tell people I use the G word, but when I say God, and I do that because a lot of people, when they think of God, they think of what they were taught during religion. It's like my husband's a Catholic, and I always say he's a recovering Catholic, because God for him is like something entirely different, right? But God for me is just total unconditional love energy that created all that is. All that is.
I'd like to add a little bit. I don't want to say the goddess. I work a lot of the goddess energy, but it's all one and the same, because
God doesn't have one or the other.
Right. So it's like whatever. So it's like people get like so mixed up with like words, and it's like, hey, we're all kind of speaking the same language.
But you punched a button of mine, because it's just like a couple of years ago, everybody was all into this. Oh, the divine feminine. Oh, the divine feminine. Well, guess what? You're both.
Yeah.
You're both masculine and feminine.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. But because we're humans and we think this is what we are, right? We have to use language.
Right.
It's actually, when I was in the presence of the divine, you can't put that into words.
No.
You really can't. It's a feeling that there are absolutely no words for. I do remember that I thought, oh, I'm here. I can ask all my questions. And in the same moment, my thought went to, I don't have any questions, because I understand I'm a part of all that is.
Well, it's like an absolute moment, you know, when you come into that. You know, I know that when I went into that white space, and I realized, you know, I checked my palm and there was no evidence that I had a body anymore. But then I had the consciousness and the mindfulness of self to realize, even without the body, there still is a personality. So I can still feel the nature of who I was when I was embodied. And so
yeah, it's like, so like when I look at a soul, we're all part of one big soul, right?
Right.
But it's like there's an individual you're like an individual facet particle within God particle. Oh, I love it. You're a particle within the God particle, right? So there is a tiny bit of an individuality when you're here in form, okay? Because you're God expressing in form, right? So that's what it is. Yeah, I never thought of explaining it that way. Good one.
It's interesting because as we look at the vastness of a soul's or spirit journey and the essence of that spirit, is that when we come here, we're representing, for me, in my belief system, is that this presence, or this, I call these avatars, the body or the vehicle is the avatar, but it brings all of that soul essence into this experience for me being here now. So whatever is going on it's a cumulative expression of my spirit that animates my body, right? So it's like at this, and so when I'm getting new information, and there's also that kind of the act of, of compassion for self, forgiveness of self, and truly loving yourself, because as we're moving about and learning and gaining more information, more understanding, sometimes we get a little bit messy.
Yeah, but that's fine. Listen, I always say if we weren't in a body, we couldn't taste chocolate, right?
That's right.
Chocolate is fun, right? It's good. So listen, if anything that we've spoken about, if your brain's just going, don't worry, because you don't have to know everything, right? It's all a journey, and it's about the journey, right? And having fun along the journey.
Having fun, and I know that as I've been, visiting with more people and really compassionately listening and actively listening with others, people start, even without me saying exactly what I do or the kind of language I use or where my heart space is, they start telling me these uncanny experiences like we're talking right now. And I think what happens is in a lot of cultures or families, there's not a place and a position in that day or with the family unit or whatever to even have this dialogue. So I think when people are coming out and saying, listen, this is what happened, my stuff started happening at 4. And then I never knew to even tell anybody. But it's not like we need to make up a big story or narrative about it, but it's like knowing that we have a connection here on a soul level with others as everybody is waking up. And we're waking up every day, every moment, every in-breath.
Right. And I think that for as much as I think there is bad with the fact that we can connect so readily, like news we get immediately. I mean, think years ago, somebody had to ride on horseback to another city and, tell them what was coming or what was happening. But I think that we have the capacity now because of the internet, because of social media, because of, like our cell phones. We're tapped into the internet wherever we go. And I think because of that a lot more people are awakening faster because the information is available.
Yeah, and for me, a lot of times when I look at, because I work primarily with frequency and energy, but I love beings, I love people. I love Sharon, she's a God of body and everything, but I still work on an energetic level. So sometimes when the information comes through to me, it's like a layer of consciousness comes in that's people that are here ready to receive it, and for those that can tap into that vibration, this new vibration that comes in with new understanding, new wisdom, new information, then those that are able to touch it are able to tap in. And from that there's so many people right now waking up, and all of us, we're radiating light. We're radiating love, radiating, there's more to this life. And even I'm looking at the book Proof of Heaven, it's almost like that quote that Sharon read is that we have an experience in this lifetime right now, in this moment of now, to see this as heaven. That where we're at.
It is. We choose. Heaven and hell are right here on earth.
Yeah,
we choose. And we do it by choice.
That's right.
So if you're in hell, you can choose right now to change and turn it into heaven. You really can.
It's
like
we're
that powerful. We are that powerful, right?
I know, and in that lucid dream, for whatever reason, I don't really want this in my dream. And I just said dissolve. And people laugh at me because of some of the work I do with healing of the body, that it doesn't have to be a long, drawn out situation. You can just, it's not my belief system.
Right.
It's just, I don't believe it.
But I will say this, so a lot of us aren't there, and it's okay, it's fine. Right.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And if you don't like something that's happening, choose again. Yeah. Just choose again, choose again. Just keep choosing again. Yeah. Because you can't get it wrong.
There's
right? You can't get it wrong.
There's nothing wrong. People are like, oh, I made a mistake on this path. Every path is the perfect path. So whatever you chose, even if it seems messy or sloppy or there's like pain and suffering that comes from it, all of that was part of this divine plan for you.
Right.
And so, but she's right about begin baby steps of noticing what is showing up in my field. How can I make I don't need to make a big drastic change when something's going wackadoodle, but you can make a slight pivot and face a different direction.
Right.
So you start making those real simple adjustments to positioning.
And I will say this too, if you don't know what it is and you're struggling, find somebody to help you. I have a lot of people that I work with. Yeah. I have good friends that I confide my shit in, you know. Seriously. Seriously. I mean, we're all a hot mess when it comes to maneuvering within this world. Okay. So don't feel like you have to know everything. Don't feel like you have to be perfect. You know, please just find help when you need it. Yeah. There's lots of Susie and Sharon's around.
And you know, this whole idea too, the greatest vibration when people are like lacking in abundance, prosperity model, or in relationships or even body things, when you can bring pleasure and play in. So some people are like working so hard to make money and they're having kind of some blocks there. The best thing you can do is schedule a vacation, go do something fun, bring more pleasure and play. I'll tell you what, you bring pleasure and play and that laughter.
It's a great creative energy. It really is. If you're getting too adamant about something having to work a certain way, you're blocking your energy. You are absolutely blocking your energy. So yeah. So this has been fun. Yeah. I think we're at the end.
I think we're done.
I think we're done. Yeah. So, you know, we might create some classes together. We don't know. We just decided to do this and have fun with it. So
absolutely.
I always end my videos. I always have a saying that I end them with. Do you want to say something for the end? For your part?
I would just like to say thank you, Sharon, for us doing this together. And I really admire Sharon and love that we have the Akashic abilities that we share that so many others do, but it's wonderful. So just
thank you, Susie. Well, right back at you, sister friend.
Good.
Right back at you. Good. So I always end by telling the people watching the video, go out and have a fabulous life just because you can.